Greetings. I've ruined it. It's over. It's over. My work has been destroyed. My hard work, hours of effort down the drain. All of it for nothing. No. No, this is just off by one error. And you can kind of tell because each chunk has, its own strip here, which kind of gets placed in almost like staircase steps here. So every time there's the off by one error, you can see it goes up by one cell and it goes back by one cell as well. So it's in the Z dimension and the Y dimension. So this is actually should be pretty easy to fix. What was not easy, however, was optimizing, which is all I've been doing for the past all day today and past few days as well. I mean, whenever I've had time, I've been trying to optimize this. And I know that last time I was bringing up shaders, and I want to talk about that a little bit. I did some more research on shaders, and I really don't think that's the right solution anymore. The reason I thought it was the right solution, which I think is pretty logical, is that, the GPU is very good at doing these calculations, which in this case is a massive calculation that takes a lot of individual triangles, a lot of individual points, and they could be independent of each other. And then they run through this algorithm and then, generate the meshes and the vertices and the triangles and the normal vectors and everything. So all of that stuff could be done in parallel if you had enough cores, and the GPU has a lot of cores. So it sounded like it would be perfect, right? But in reality, there are a few major drawbacks. And well, absolutely the biggest drawback is I would have to port the code over to a shader language like WSGL or whatever it's called. I'm forgetting the acronym, but I was looking into that and even trying to learn a little bit of that shader language, and it is very complicated. It's not very intuitive. I'm sure, given enough time, a few weeks, a month or two, I could learn it, but it's really not necessary for this project because as much of a big calculation this is to generate a big piece of terrain, it is, like I said, or like in an earlier video, it is a front-loaded issue, right? And in a game, it would just happen during the loading phase, and then whenever you're modifying the terrain, or let's say you're traveling and more terrain is being generated as you move, chunks are appearing in the distance. It would only be small collections of chunks, so it shouldn't take that long. But all of that being said, there was still a lot of room for optimization. And so that is what I've been spending my time on. And it's been taking me quite a long time because it has not been simple. And the first thing I did was simple because there is a crate, there's a Rust library called Rayon, which just lets you run tasks in parallel on the CPU, obviously. But even with only a quad-core CPU, I mean, you can still speed up tasks by 4, right? Or by however many threads you have. I'm still not entirely sure how threads versus cores. I'm not totally, I'm not an expert on that. But what I do know is running tasks in parallel is great. It speeds up the process a lot. But that isn't even the biggest optimization that I made. The biggest optimization was not calculating this in a very stupid way. So basically, every single cell in this grid has, if you can imagine a cube, every cube has 8 corners. So for every cell in this grid, I was looping through 8 corners and generating the scalar field values for each corner. And so that's 8 times per cell in the grid. This is very, very inefficient. And just so many points in the grid, basically every point in the grid is being generated multiple times. Every value, every scalar field value. And as I mentioned, the value comes from a noise algorithm, which, it's fast, of course, but it still has a footprint, right? It takes, 30 milliseconds or so. And so when you add that up with all of these duplicate calls, all of this duplicate generation, everything, when I was running it all sequentially, it took about 20 seconds, which is a long time that's a lot of loading, right? So with nothing optimized, it was around 20 seconds. When I added in parallel computation, that brought it down to like 4 seconds. And that's really great. Then I tried removing the parallel computation, and today I optimized the scalar field generation so that it's no longer doing this duplicate generation for each point. And that brought it down from 20 seconds to about 7 seconds. And now with both optimizations in place, this took a little under 2 seconds. This time, let's see what it was. Okay, yeah, just about 2 seconds. Sometimes it's even faster. So yeah, all for the same size. It should be the same number of triangles. It's just with this optimization, I obviously made the off by 1 mistake. So I need to go in and fix that, of course. But all of that is just to say that there is a lot of optimization you can do on the CPU. And once you actually do those optimizations, then going through all of the hurdles and jumping through all the hoops of trying to create a compute shader, it just wouldn't make any sense at all. It would just be crazy. So I've mixed feelings about it. I'm kind of sad because it seemed like it would have been super interesting to do that. And also at the time, of course, seemed like the right tool for the job. So I was a little bit disappointed that I wasn't going to be doing that. But at the same time, of course, I am relieved because it's just so much easier working in Rust, doing all the optimizations in Rust. I'd much rather spend my time continuing this, adding additional functionality. Yeah, I think this is going to continue to be a fun project. So, well, I guess I'll fix this issue now. And hopefully, one other thing to mention, right? The optimization with the duplicate scalar field values, that's really only half the battle here. And I'm glad that I was able to do it, but there's still the normal vector calculations. That also is generating a lot of values more than necessary. So that's obviously not ideal. That's an issue as well. I have kind of a vague idea of how I'm going to approach that, but ideally that needs to be solved as well. Doing that optimization should bring this down to about 1 second, hopefully even less than a second. And if it's less than a second to load the entire terrain, this size, right, then loading smaller collections of chunks should be instant, and that's really what I want. That's the goal, for runtime performance to be, as good as possible. And if I did it with a shader, another issue that I didn't mention is, sending data to and from the GPU. There is a delay, it's like uploading and downloading the data. So that's not ideal either, obviously. And if I optimize this as much as I can on the CPU, then it should be even faster than doing the, sending data to and from the GPU. And it just, when you think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? The data goes from the CPU to the GPU, back to the CPU, and then when it renders, it goes back to the GPU. So it's this back and forth. It's just, it's not necessary. And so I'm glad I don't have to do it.